Hey Whovians, how's it going? Welcome to the very first episode of the Doctor Who podcast, Tardis Talks, with me and my co-host, Miss Josh Rimmer. How's it going today, Josh?
Oh, it's going great, Darcy. How are you, man?
Yeah, pretty good. Today we're going to be talking about the very first Doctor Who episode of Flux, the 6-part event, basically Series 13, I guess this would be. And we're going to be talking about what we did and didn't like, the ups and downs, and what we might hope to see for the future of the 6-part series. So let's get straight into it. So, what do you think? What was the highlights for you?
Oh, well, this was the first time for me in a very long time for Doctor Who, especially the Chibnall era, where I was actually genuinely excited to watch the whole episode. Like, from start to finish, I was very excited. For one reason, my absolute highlight, Sontarans. I have been waiting to see my beautiful potato boys for so long, and it was so good to see them. They were disgusting, they were hilarious, they were an actual threat, and it was great. I loved it.
I did find it a little bit confusing with some of the monsters. It's probably not fan service, it's probably got a reason, but it did seem like, especially the Weeping Angels, they were just kind of there.
I was just sitting there, I was like, what was the point of that? And then there was, what's her name, Claire. Oh, in that whole segment where...
She's got to have something to do with
this. When I saw her, I immediately thought, is this like a River Song situation where we're meeting her at the end of her timeline, but we're going to see her for the next 4?
Yeah.
River Song was a consistent character from like the 10th Doctor all the way up until the 12th Doctor.
Perhaps it may be, I'm going to sprout a little bit of a weird theory here. Perhaps it is River Song. I don't know, Chibnall has, a tendency to
mess around
with it. Lore. So perhaps she, like the Doctor, has a way of regenerating, but I don't think she is from Gallifrey. She might be, correct me if I'm wrong. But, yeah.
The Weeping Angels were weird, but the one villain, at least new villain that I actually thought was really
skeleton-looking guy,
the Swarm. His name was Swarm. It's weird. They don't really give names to him, but there's the guy with the crystals on his head. Yeah. That guy, like the effects of him sucking the souls of people.
The way that it looks right now, the first time I saw him and he had that connection with the Doctor, the way it looks as of now is that he may be the Master. I would love that.
That would be great. Because
if Sacha Dhawan came back, maybe it's a different actor, but if it's revealed that he's the Master, I would love to have some sort of flashback to how he escaped the death particle on Gallifrey.
It would explain why he looks so weird too. Like he's been malformed, he's been changed by being into that.
But when he said that... I have been fighting you a long time. We danced across space and time in eternal conflict. Now we get to do it one last time. Our final fight has begun. It's either the Master messing with the Doctor or a very old villain, or perhaps an incarnation of a villain.
Because it has to be... It's weird. Why wouldn't the Doctor remember them? It has to be something...
Perhaps it's got something to do with the past lifetime the Doctor had.
Yeah, like maybe it was
when it came out, I thought, is that a scroll from Captain Marvel? It's like, what is that thing?
Yeah, I'd love to see that. It's the major thing for me in this episode. It was very full. Now it's a kind of a double.
Lots of content.
Yeah, it was. They were, which made sense. They were setting up everything for basically the grand finale of a Doctor. Like 6 episodes chock full of monsters and creatures, which was interesting considering they're doing it's the picks that are a bit strange to me. So they've got that Vinder, I think his name was. I liked his segment. I don't exactly understand why he was there. Yeah. But it's all just setting up characters. And that's the major thing right now. We can't really see all the threads yet, so we don't understand it.
So we opened with the Doctor and Yaz hanging upside down on what looked like the Green Goblin's glider. And they've been imprisoned by this thing called the Carvanista. Now, we haven't seen the Carvanista before, so I'm excited. So it was revealed that the Carvanista and his 7 billion ships were evacuating Earth to stop the Flux. Now, I thought when I saw the trailer that Carvanista was the Flux. I mean, a hurricane rushing through space, I don't know how that'd be possible, but it does look... the visuals in this episode were incredible.
Yeah. I have a theory about it. I don't think the flux is an actual destructive force. I think it's an
Like an envelope?
Yeah, I think it's an envelope. Think about it. So you see all these planets, it's being taken and their energy is being absorbed into the storm, right?
Yeah.
Well, where else have we heard about some sort of pocket dimension being heard with that kind of orangey, bronzy look?
Where?
Gallifrey. The old dusty pocket dimension look.
Oh, that is a very good theory, Josh. I like that. Yep.
And the swarm or the master or whatever the heck he is.
I rate that. I reckon that at the end of this series, we're going to find out that Gallifrey, after the death particle, just...
Yeah. Because
Gallifrey may actually... It's probably the flux.
Yeah.
I rate that a lot.
It's breaking out because, I don't know, the Time Lords, they want to...
maybe it's not a destructive force or Gallifrey. Maybe it's like the universe's renewable energy bill.
Yeah, exactly.
It's coming. Yeah. The plot was pretty well thought out. I liked Dan, and I know I said earlier about the monsters just sitting there not doing much, but I suppose because the next episode is going to be about the Sontarans, we know that. It's going to be all about the Crimean War, I believe. So that episode for the Sontarans, that quick 60-second burst that we saw, that's the screen time they got, less than about 60 seconds. But I think that in their case, it worked great. It's a setup. They're there for a reason. They are very looking forward to the flux wiping out the universe.
They're taking advantage of it, which is interesting.
Because they have been in... conflict with a particular species. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. They were in a war. It was
a very long war with another species. I cannot remember what species. I'll put.
I'd love if they've actually bring back that old lore, because back when they came back for the 10th Doctor episode, the Poison Sky, there was nothing about their enemy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of disappointing, as it's one of their major characteristics besides the fact they're so militarized.
Yeah, and then we meet up with Dan, and his home is outside Anfield. We see the Tardis apparate. My dad will be happy. Apparate. Did I just say apparate in a Doctor Who episode?
I can't believe this.
Jesus.
Well, I actually really like Dan. He was...
Yeah. John Bishop is
he's
a great addition to the series. And I was just thinking to myself, what if John Bishop he's probably going to branch off maybe into series 14.
Yeah, I feel like...
Who's going to be there for the Doctor's regeneration is what I'd love to know.
Yeah, my major issue with this episode, actually strangely enough, was the Doctor. I don't know how, but I just felt she was very secretive about the division with Carvanista, and they never actually addressed that. Like, what organization could have the Doctor so mortified that she tracks some funny doggo across the entire galaxy just to talk to him and ask him about it? Like,
yeah. But one of the downs for me in this episode is just the lack of background we have. Yeah. About some of the monsters, which works well if you're going in with a bit of mystery to a first episode. It does work well, but I think some of them... it does provide quite a bit of background. But I would have liked more as to who's going to benefit and who's not going to benefit from the flux.
It's self-explanatory, but I don't see a reason as to why they're there. Like Weeping Angels, the Doctor never truly kills all the Weeping Angels, like the Daleks, every time. They just they deal with a group of them, and then the rest just kind of chill out.
Yeah, and another big thing about this first episode is we see the TARDIS is stuffing up. Now, after watching this episode, I remembered a video from a YouTuber called The Confused Adipose, which I'll put up right on the screen here. He said that when there was a leak a few months back, and he looked at it and he resolved that the TARDIS was in fact dying. And it does look that way with what we've seen with the interior and exterior of the TARDIS. Because either it's just getting too old and just malfunctioning, or perhaps it's got something to do with the flux. The fact that the flux is very powerful. We were left on a cliffhanger with them like nearly being pulled out into the hurricane. So it might have something to do with the flux, or I think the TARDIS is probably getting old. It's getting ready to die.
But
Chibnall's probably signifying his time. He's probably being a bit... I like to imagine that Chibnall's signifying his time in Doctor Who as the analogy of the TARDIS dying. He's leaking out as much stuff as he can.
I don't understand why the TARDIS. What are they going to have a whole like series with the Doctor stuck in one time, one place on like, I don't know, Earth or trapped somewhere? Because if so, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that would be cool.
Because otherwise it'd feel really cheap if they go through all this, it's leaking, it's gonna die, and then they get to the end of the series, it's perfectly fine. This was the first time for a very long time I actually wanted to... Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's the first time I was like, wow, I actually want to learn more about this story. What's going to happen? What's going on with Vinda? And it's the first time I've been like highly excited for another episode. War of the Sontarans.
It's the clever way that the cliffhanger presented itself right at the end, I reckon.
Yeah.
If it had just... I mean, the line was a bit confusing from the Doctor, but I did like the fact that she'd always wanted to see what the end of the universe is.
Do you remember that like very short scene that felt like it had no part in any of it, where it was like the old guy in 1820 Liverpool, and they were building tunnels? I feel it felt very out of place in all of this, because it didn't really, at least with the other ones, it was all in the same sort of time period. So what happened nearly 200 years ago that they had to dedicate a segment of this already very chock full episode of... He was talking about, like, you know, they're trying to build something, they're trying to create something.
Yeah.
And I actually have another theory. I think that's where the special kind of Cyberman's going to come in.
Perhaps, yeah.
Because in almost every reality where Cybermen are, they're created by someone. They're developed to become the next line of humans, you know, the next evolutionary step.
We'll have to wait for next week. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all. It's been great talking to you, Darcy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's just so good to have Doctor Who back.
It's great.
It's been, what has it been, like 6 months?
6 months. 6 months and some very high anticipation for it. So, and guys,
it honestly, in my opinion, it did deliver. I'd give it a solid like 9 out of 10. It was
me too.
Yeah, it gave, everything was there. It's just, it's one of those episodes. I think it's going to get better with time as you actually understand what they're all doing.
Yeah.
Because right now it's just setting up everything, and then it's going to get good when you actually start looking into the different episodes.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Our next episode will be out when episode 2 of The Flux comes back, and we will probably do this into the 14th series of Doctor Who. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah. Slap that like, slap that subscribe, and the bell, and we'll see you later.
Adios.